Good morning, guys. So today we're going to build on the knife skills that we've started this week already with our crudité, meaning our raw vegetables cut into the béton, bâtonnet, julienne shape, and then our sizes of dice. We did medium, small, and fine, or otherwise known as brunoise. Today we're going to make Pico de Gallo. Take a little turn away from France and make something a little more Tex-Mex. And Pico de Gallo is going to be plum tomatoes, a little jalapeno, fresh lime juice, raw onion, and salt. And that's going to make a dip for chips, right? Or a topping for quesadillas or tacos. We all know and love it. So the key to this is knife skills. We want to be able to cut everything up so that it retains its individual flavor profiles and doesn't become a mush. And we're gonna have some good practice working on sizes. So I've already washed all my produce and I have my knife station set up. Just to review, the 6 essential parts of our knife station that we talked about are a good cutting board that's large enough for the work that you're doing, a damp and wrung out towel that you've put underneath it so that it doesn't slip and slide, or you can get that shelf liner, but the towel is easier to wash. Just throw it in your wash. So those are the first 2. Then your knife that you're going to use. I'm going to use my smaller chef's knife. This is my 6-inch chef's knife, or you can use your 8 or 9-inch chef's knife for this job, but I wouldn't go for the paring knife for this work today. The next item is our bench scraper for moving items and for cleaning up our workstation, if you have one. It's a nice tool to have. And then we need containers. So I love these deli cups, right, you know, and I'm always going to have a container for scraps / compost, if you compost, and then containers for the finished product that I'm working on. So I already cut up some of my tomatoes, and then this is going to be for my jalapeno, and then I have another one for my onion. So I like to keep everything separate until I'm ready to compose or put something together, right? So just to keep it separate and organized, my station nice and clean. So we're ready to go. I'm going to get started with the tomato, and then we'll go from there. So plum tomatoes are good for whenever it's not tomato season, which is basically whenever it's not July, August, early September. I'm going to reach for a plum tomato or a canned tomato. And in this Pico de Gallo, it's fine because there's some really strong flavors going on of the cilantro, which I still have to grab, the onion and the lime juice, and the tomato doesn't have to be a beautiful summer tomato in this recipe. So the plum tomatoes have a little bit of a stem end. I'm always going to start by cutting that off. And we just want to take this moment to mentally reset. Okay, I'm approaching cutting, and how do I want to behave in my cutting with that mentality of applying the technique. So your body position is important. I want to stand with my feet shoulder width apart, and I want to be basically straight on to my cutting board at a 90-degree angle. My knife hand is going to pinch the blade with my thumb and forefinger, and my other 3 fingers are wrapping around, and then my left hand is my guiding hand. If you are left-handed with your chef's knife, you know, switch it up, opposite direction. So this first step is I'm going to trim off the stem. I'm just going to use my knife to shave that little bit of the stem off the tomato. And if your knife doesn't slide through the tomato skin effortlessly, it is not sharp enough. In the kitchen, we use the tomato as like the #1 test if your knife needs to be sharpened, if it's dull. And a dull knife is dangerous because you have to apply more force to get through something, and that extra force is more likely to slip and cut into your hand with extra force and cause more damage. So we'll talk about sharpening in another video, but this is like the #1 way to say if you've gotten your knife sharp enough or if it needs to be sharpened. So we've gotten the stem removed on that one, and I'm going to do the stem on this one because I'm always thinking assembly line. I want to do the same action on every item rather than completing one item and then repeating the entire thing on another. I want to batch process, move it through like an assembly line. It's the most efficient and organized way to do it. So now I have this flat end. I can turn that down on the cutting board for stability, and I can cut planks through my tomato, or I can cut the tomato in half and turn those halves down and get planks like that. So that's what I would normally do. And we're looking for about a medium dice and Pico de Gallo on the tomato and the onion. I go for the tomato something a little bit smaller than a medium dice because I get more cube-like shapes. On the onion, I'm going to go to a medium dice because they actually are more flat. So it's going to be like a 1/2 inch by a 1/2 inch by something skinnier. So we'll just think through, you know, it's Pico de Gallo, it's not fine dining, so we want to just be regulating the size to be even on our cuts to practice making the same size. So on each half of the tomato, I might come through one time with my knife, and what I've done is I've turned the knife, instead of being perpendicular to the cutting board, I'm now parallel. So I've used my fingertips with the bear claw position, curved knuckles forward a little bit, and I'm coming in right in the middle, and I'm just filleting it in half, essentially. So I'm going to move that out of the way and repeat so you can keep seeing. So nails down into the food, knuckles bowed forward a little bit, looks like that on the side, and then my knife is totally parallel to the cutting board, and I'm still pinching the blade. So my hand position on the knife hasn't changed, I've just rotated 90 degrees. And then I'm going to come in and wiggle it in half and move it out of the way. And then I'm going to repeat. I'm going to straddle the tomato, cut it in half, put each half down, and then come in half. And we'll use the same approach with the onion, coming in sideways like this. So now I've got all my halves with that step done, and I'm going to take each one and I'm going to cut it into 3. These are about medium size plum tomatoes. Sometimes they're smaller, sometimes they're bigger. You just have to make a judgment. How many cuts across do you do to get it to be the thickness that you want? So this is about a medium dice. I'm going about a 1/2 inch into these strips, which we would call, these are planks, like walking the plank on a pirate ship. Now we've cut it into sticks, and then I'm going to do the dice after that. All right, so I've got all my planks. I'm not going to try and cut through all of those at once because I just can't manage that with my knife in my hand. So just continue with one at a time. Lean over to see that you're cutting with right angles, and just to see the size that you're doing. Keep your bear claw with your thumb tucked back, and you're going to come in, and you don't need a lot of force. If your knife is sharp, you just glide in and come back. So there's one, like that. And you'll notice my guiding hand is retreating as the knife is advancing, and then I pull more work to the knife in a separate motion. All right, and keep all your work finished product in one spot. All right, so make sure you're coming all the way down. All right, so my tomatoes are done now. I'm going to put my knife down. This is where the bench scraper comes into play. I'm going to collect it, pick it up, and return it to my prep bowl. All right, and then I'm going to clean up the juices on the counter before I move on to my jalapeno. So this is where the bench scraper really does a great job. I could even lift up some juices there and just swipe them into the sink and keep going. All right, so next step will be our jalapeno.